Welcome back, everyone, to Exotic Ring Gaming here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a Magicka Nightblade build for Dragon Bones DLC, the new patch, and this is an update on my last build. Luckily, not a whole lot has changed, and some good news and bad news in terms of swapping out sets and having to get new gear. But all in all, the build is generally pretty much the same. We got 10 more CP, so we'll go over CP a little bit. Magicka Nightblade now is really strong. I'm sure there are people out there that might be able to play even a little bit better than myself. But this is the rotation I've put together, and it works really well. And I'm sure it could be improved a little bit, but it pumps out a lot of damage and scales really, really well in trials. Some of the highest numbers I've been able to hit was with this build, and especially in this patch, I think it's going to be even that much better. Luckily, last patch in Clockwork City, I was running dual fire staves, and for CP, I wasn't using the exploiter passive with Thaumaturge, so I wasn't. I'm not This build is not affected by this update really at all. The only difference now is trying the new mechanical Acuity set, which is what we'll go into now, which is gear. Monster set is the same, Valken Scoria. You could use Zon if you're going to be playing melee or really close. That's going to outperform Valken, hands down, no doubt. Only problem is, and as I said in my Magicka Sorcerer build update for Dragon Bones, is that a lot of if you're going to be playing a Magicka melee, you almost might as well just be a stamina tune. Now, I haven't done any trials in this update yet, so it's very possible that a melee ranged Magicka Nightblade with Zon could outperform stamina tunes. It's very possible in terms of damage, and then in that case, you would want to use that set. So that's something that be tested out. But if you're playing ranged and you want to play ranged, Valken Scoria is going to outperform Zon, as I previously said in my other build video, if you saw it. If not, basically, Zon has a distance that you have to be within the boss or the enemy that it hits, and if you're not within that distance, then the fire beam will break. Valken Scoria, it's going to hit the target 100 every time. It will never not hit your target, which is really nice. Other than that, mechanical Acuity, this is not a new set to this in this update. It's from Clockwork City, but has garnered some attention. I tested it out on the Magsork, and my Magsork pulled the highest DPS with that, and some changes I made to CP. So with my rotation on the Magsork, it managed to do well. And on this build as well, with this rotation of mine and the CP, it outperformed my old setup, which was Burning Spellweave. So mechanical Acuity is still the way to go right now, at least for Magicka tunes. It really performs well, and when you're in execute, that execute phase goes so fast. Other things we're using: Moondancer, 4-piece on the front bar, and a Maelstrom Inferno on the back bar, Nirnhoned with the weapon damage and spell damage enchant. If we take a look at the combat metrics, since it's working now, it is, what was the uptime on it? Like 46%. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's less, but typically around 50%. So really, really, really strong. Other than that, infused flame damage enchant with the Moondancer Inferno staff. Also really strong, and as you can see from the combat metrics, look at the DPS on our light attacks. Like, on our light attacks, it is absurd. 23% of my damage was from light attacks. 8,047 DPS from light attacks. It's ridiculous. So, and I'm thinking about trying to port over some of this CP over to the Magsork and see how it works there as well. But at least for this, using dual Inferno and the way that the Nightblade is set up, it works really well. And that's the highest self-buff parse I've been able to reach, was 34.6 using a Trials optimized build not taking advantage. I mean, we're using the Apprentice Mundus Stone, we're not using the Lover Mundus Stone. You know, you can optimize these builds to pump out more damage on a target dummy easily, but this is set up for what you would see in a Trials, and it's, like I said, scales really well in Trials. So let's take a look at CP now. So only 28 Taumaturge. I really bumped that down quite a bit and put those points into things like Master at Arms, 16% with direct damage, which is really nice. Our Merciless Resolve is direct damage, and our Funnel Health is, I believe, direct damage as well, also magic damage. And then Staff Expert is what's buffing our light attacks so much. And as you can see, I only put 16 points into here, and then managed with a VMA staff and Staff Expert, 16 points in here, getting my light attacks to do that much damage. So really strong that way. 56 Elemental Expert, 52 Spell Erosion for that penetration, and then 48 Elfborn. Now this is important. This CP passive right here is, I think, a lot more important in this patch than it was before. Just because if we're using Mechanical Acuity, you want your critical damage to do as much as possible. And so, since you're critting so often, and it's kind of filling that void of, you know, having that crit damage where we used to have that from before Horns of the Reach when they nerfed the Thief Mundus Stone. Mechanical Acuity kind of fills that void that was once there. And if we pump up Elfborn, even maybe a little bit more than what I have it right now, take a couple from Spell Erosion and put another percent in here, up to 19%, your crits are doing that much more. And since we're critting pretty often with Mechanical Acuity, it's just going to bump up your DPS. So that's kind of where I'm thinking with that. In terms of green, I didn't change anything here. Shadow Ward, I don't know why that was there. I think that was from when I was running VMA, so I would take some from there and throw it somewhere else. Tumbling, also from VMA. But you can take those, bump them down a little bit, and use Warlord, since there's a lot of breaking free mechanics. But again, play with the green as you see fit. That's much more player-based on how it works. I mean, Magicka Nightblade has great sustain. I am a vampire, and I bump up Arcanist up to 15% just to get Magicka recovery as high as possible. And then Tenacity, like, that could honestly probably be brought down a little bit because I rarely heavy attack, but if I have to heavy attack, I can get quite a bit of resources from it. And even more so now since off balance changes, and when a target goes off balance and you do a heavy attack on them, it doesn't consume the off balance, but they can be off balance less often, and you also gain more resources back, twice as many resources. So it's pretty powerful. But yeah, play with this as you need. For Red Tree, I mean, I haven't even distributed the 10 new points here. And this was also somewhat from VMA, so I put some into Bastion, which you can keep there. 43 Elemental Defender, Hardy, 44 Thick-Skinned. I would actually probably use my 10 here to get to 48. And then maybe some more in Ironclad to 19, and then some Spell Shields. Probably what I'm going to do. So just kind of looking around like that. But that's really CP. I don't want to keep this video too long because I don't want it to be overwhelming, or especially since there's not too many changes. So Mechanical Acuity, got that. Witchmother's Potent Brew for the recovery, and obviously Spell Power Pots. Make sure you have all your passives. I'm using Undaunted. I'm rocking 1 medium, 1 heavy, 5 light. Ideally, heavy would be your helmet, just because you get more armor out of it, but it's whatever. And that way you get 6% more max resources from Undaunted. And then other than that, just make sure... I recommend Vampire on this, especially since you get flame damage mitigation from here anyways, so it's kind of nice. And then... what's the other one? Alchemy. Make sure you have medicinal use unlocked. In terms of rotation, so going into the fight, I will, before I start, hit Merciless Resolve, siphoning attacks, Ellie Drain, pop a potion, do my Destro ult, and then I would back bar and start applying dots. Front bar, funnel attack, light attack, weave until you get a Merciless Resolve. And then when those run out, you just apply all 3 of those buffs. Reapply blockade when it runs out, and twisting path. It's up. Now what I do is light attack them, light attack siphoning, light attack Ellie drain, bar swap, reapply my dots on the back bar, come to the front, use my Merciless Resolve, Assassin's Will, whatever. A couple of those. That's pretty much it. So the best way to remember it is that, and it makes it a lot easier if you're using Surrender, but you can get the rotation down. And the thing I hate about rotations is when they're not consistent. So like you're just mashing buttons throughout a fight. So when I make these rotations, I like to make them replicable because it makes the damage consistent. And there won't be a big damage drop-off depending on how the rotation goes or how the fight goes. So ideally, like I said, you go into the fight and you apply these with the Ellie drain, and you start applying your buffs on the back bar with light attack weaves. And when you get to the front bar, just light attack, swallow soul or funnel health until you can get your Assassin's Will to go off. Then you hit that, and then you bar swap. And you reapply the dots on the back, and you go to the front, and by that time you should be close to having the Assassin's Will procced again. If not, just do another light attack weave and then hit it. And once you hit it off, what you do is then you reapply Merciless Resolve, light attack weaving, siphoning attacks, and Ellie drain. And so you're applying Ellie drain every other, along with siphoning attacks, Merciless Resolve. So it's actually kind of smooth once you get used to it. It's just the light attack weaving is very difficult on this build because for some reason, I don't know if it's just me, but light attack weaving with Swallow Soul it feels a little off. But yeah, that's kind of how the rotation goes. And just to touch base on the skills a little bit more, I prefer Swallow Soul over Force Pulse or Crushing Shock on the Nightblade build because it's a really strong spammable. It's a class ability. It gives you great sustain and healing, so if you're doing solo content, even that much better. And it scales really well with damage. I mean, you could run an Asylum Staff on the front bar with Force Pulse instead. That's possible. But this has worked for me, so that's what I recommend. But again, take it, run with it, and switch things out that you want to use. Run an Inner Light just for max magic. Ellie Drain on this, you would swap that out with Harness Magicka. Merciless Resolve and Siphoning attacks with the Destro Staff ulti on the front bar. That way you get the Destruction Staff passive. Where is it? Yep. Gain bonus effects based on your staff type while you have a Destruction Staff ability slotted. So we have a staff ability on both bars. We have Blockade of Fire on the back bar, Crippling Grasp, Twisting Path, and this is our Execute, Impale. So strong. It's awesome. And then Inner Light again. And Soul Harvest. Other than that and the rotation, that's pretty much it. I'll show you the parse now. And then we'll come back and talk about the combat metrics a little bit. All right, welcome back. So let's take a look at these combat metrics and the parse here. So basically it's... Oh, wait. I gotta go to the right fight. There we go. 34.6k. Buffs were up pretty much 100% of the time. Mechanical Acuity, as you can see, it's staying up like 30% of the time, which is really strong because you're critting. Every ability is critting for an additional 30% of the time, guaranteed. And when that goes off, when you're in execute, that impale is just dealing crazy damage. Like, I was only using impale for the last like 10 seconds of the fight, and it did like 3k DPS almost. So really strong. Assassin's Will doing quite a bit too. And I was finding in my rotation that was actually proccing when Mechanical Acuity was proccing as well pretty often. So it was nice as well. That buffs its damage quite a bit. As you can see, I mean, light attacks doing twice as much damage as the next closest ability. And some. So it works really well in this build, but you can mess with that CP a little bit, like I said, and make it on your own. Major Breach was up 76% of the time. It's tough to keep it up 100% of the time when you're self-buffing, so these numbers would be a little bit more if you had someone coming in and helping you. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. Again, short build video, just wanted to touch base on some of the changes, the new set, and I'll actually show you the parse that I had before, because like I said in my Maxwork video, I always test the old set from the previous patch in the new patch, see how it performs. Is it worth even switching? And honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, you don't really have to make the switch to Mechanical Acuity if you don't want to, if you're running Burning Spellweave. Now, Burning Spellweave better than Julianos? Yes. I always parse higher than Julianos. Is Mechanical Acuity better than Burning Spellweave? By a little bit. Not by as much as Burning Spellweave is better than Julianos. But, I mean, it's something to note. It's about 1.2k DPS higher. So, yeah, I mean, it's reasonable. But as you can see, the damage is still pretty high with Burning Spellweave. And again, it's like 1.2k DPS. So that could be dependent upon a Burning Spellweave proc. And that could be dependent upon, you know, me making a mistake in the rotation. So Burning Spellweave is still strong, still performs well, and there weren't really any changes to the parsing for this patch since I'm not using the Exploiter passive before or now. So it's if you were already running Burning Spellweave, you don't feel like spending the money on grabbing Mechanical Acuity and golden it out. You don't need to if you're already running Burning Spellweave. Now, if you're new to the class and you're trying to decide what you want to run and you're like, all right, well, maybe I'll farm Burning Spellweave now or I'll get Mechanical Acuity, just go with Mechanical Acuity. It's so much easier because you just craft it. Don't go in City Ash trying to farm Burning Spellweave. It's horrible. I hate that grind. And you don't need to because Mechanical Acuity is performing slightly better. So hopefully that gives you some insight. If I missed anything, just ask in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And I appreciate you guys watching.